Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. That's already good.
I'm Gabby.
Yes. Hi, Gabi. I'm Kerstin. It's funny because your name says Benedict.
Yeah, we use his account. He's the global being um, administrator, and we use his
Yeah,
account because we can record it.
yeah, okay. So you're Gabi and not Benedict.
Yeah,
Nice to meet you and see you
to meet
for the
you.
first time on Zoom.
Yeah, nice meeting you.
Should I try if sharing works?
Yes, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Okay, let me check. Okay, we should start here. So can you
Perfect.
see
Yeah,
the slides?
yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Can you see if I move my mouse or should I use the pointer?
I can see the
Yeah.
mouse. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Good. Then it should be fine.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, hello, hi everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi.
Sure, excellent. Good to see you all.
Good to see you. Do you also do you have a PowerPoint presentation?
I do. Do you want me to upload for a second just to see if it
Yes,
works?
that'd
All
be
right,
great.
just give me a sec. I'm just using my husband's computer and his desk and everything. So, okay, let me see if this is all right. So, I guess you can see it now, but
Yeah,
is it good now?
perfect. Yes,
All right. Okay, excellent. Thank you.
great. I'm just okay. So I'm gonna introduce you to. I think we should start with Kerstin, and then we can go with Anna.
Of
And
course. Of course.
since we don't have Dr. Book, I emailed you. We can you can be a little longer in your presentation. It's up to you. We can also, if you don't have 30 minutes, we can leave this time for the discussion as well. And it's not a problem. Okay,
So how many people do you expect? Usually they were like about 10, 12 people, 15 sometimes. Is that
yeah,
correct?
we have usually from 12 to 30, and then we record the session and other people watch it online in our YouTube channel.
Okay.
Oh, that's nice. So, do I find the YouTube channel easily, or could you send me the link? Then I can
I can
share
send you the
this
link.
also again with the citizens and maybe we make a news
Yeah.
post. Yeah, okay, great.
So how about I go on mute and
I would just like to confirm the pronunciation of both your names.
sure.
So Kerstin Neumann,
Yeah,
that would be
Neumann,
okay.
human is fine. It's the correct translation into English.
And Anna Ljubičić.
That's fine. That's absolutely perfect. No worries.
Okay. Okay.
Don't worry about that.
Great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our meeting today. We have two great speakers, Kerstin Neumann and Anna Ljubičić. And I'm going to do a brief introduction of the both of them. And then they're going to speak for half an hour each. And then we have an open discussion for another half an hour. So Kerstin Neumann is a plant biologist and since 2021, a group leader for automated plant phenotyping and the IPK Gatersleben in Germany. Her research is centered around cereals and legumes, focusing on assessing plant responses to abiotic stress using non-invasive automated phenotyping, focusing on genetic and physiology and modeling plant growth and water use. Moreover, she's leading the increased citizen science experiment since 2021, together with Professor Roberto Papa from UniVPM in Ancona, Italy. So Kerstin is going to start today, and we ask you that you hold your questions for the end when we have a discussion, so they both have enough time to speak. And our second speaker is going to be Anna Ljubičić. She's a senior communications and advocacy officer for over 20 years of work experience in the IT business and communications manager. Worked for IBM organization in the Netherlands, where she owns strategic communication strategy for global services division of Benelux, managed change management process throughout the organization. In 2022, founded a nonprofit organization and led a project, Motika, in Western Serbia. Established a local heirloom seed bank for the region and promoted sustainable agriculture. Motika is recognized as the first low food farm in Serbia in October 2025. So welcome, Kerstin.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the opportunity to share the project and ideas here in this circle. Should I just start to share? Yeah, I guess so.
Yes, please.
Okay. Presentation mode. I hope you see the presentation mode. And then
we see it.
Yes, okay. Just have to minimize the speaker that I can focus on my slides. Okay, then I will start with introducing you to the increased citizen science experiment that is running since now 5 years all across Europe and is all about common bean that you already see here on these pictures, has a beautiful diversity on morphological side, but also on genetic and phenotypic side. And before I go into the details of the citizen science experiment, I just want to highlight why we do that. I think I do not need to go into the importance of legumes in this talk, because I think for the Global Bean Project audience, this is pretty clear. But while they are important for our food security, the use of the genetic material stored in the gene banks around the world is limited, and the increased project at its core has the aim to utilize this diversity that is managed in the gene bank and also partially bring it back into use in form of the decentralized seed conservation approach that is part of the citizen science experiment. The INCREASE project does also a lot of things more and is not only working on beans. So the general objectives of the whole project, if you're interested, are here summarized in this paper in the Plant Journal from the beginning of the project. And just briefly, because of course I'm not working alone on this big project, so we have 25 project partners now in total, to see here on the world map, from 13 different countries. And these comprise gene banks, universities, research centers, the FAO is included, and also associations. We started 2020 in the Corona year and therefore have 1 year cost neutral extension. So we will end the project by end of April next year. The project is coordinated by Professor Roberto Papa from the University Politecnica della Marche in Ancona in Italy. And the IPK leads 2 of the work packages. I'm responsible for work package 6, which is germplasm management. And in total, we have 6 scientific work packages in the project. So if you want to find out more, feel free to visit the website, which is pulsesincrease.eu. We work with several legume crops in increase. This includes chickpea, of course, common bean, which we are talking about today, lentil, and 2 species of lupin, namely white lupin and the Andean lupin. So at the beginning of the project, we were defining protocols to really have everything standardized and established. So we defined protocols for single seed descent of the gene bank material and also for the secondary seed increase. All the material that we single seed descended are comprising the R core. So these are thousands of single seed descent lines from each crops. And within this R core, we define a T core, which is a diverse subset of the full collection that goes then into deeper research questions like metabolomics, phenotyping, also in the field, and also has way denser genotypic information in form of whole genome shotgun sequencing, while the R core itself has cheaper sequencing information in form of genotyping by sequencing. Within the T core, we also defined a H core that comprises around 50 of the T core lines, which then also are used for example, pangenomic studies. One study that came out also for beans during the project was comprising a subset of around 300 something single seed descent lines, where we looked into the evolutionary history of common bean. And with the genetic information, but also with phenotypic information that we had, we see basically 5 races or clusters of common bean that made it less or more successful into Europe. These are 2 races in the Mesoamerican region, that's the M1 and the M2 genetic subgroup. And then we have 3 subgroups along the Andean region. So they all were introduced into Europe, but not all were able to distribute in Europe equally good. So for example, the A2 group is not well adapted to EU environments as they have a strong photoperiod sensitivity, and they are mainly here in the Portugal region. And also part of the A3 group is partially photoperiod sensitive, therefore is better adapted in the southern part of the EU. And of course, all these gene pools met in Europe and hybridized, and this is also a reason why we have such a large diversity within the European common bean gene pool. As said, we want to make use of the genetic diversity stored in gene banks, and just to give an impression how much we actually have. So if you search in the Eurisco catalog for Zeolus vulgaris, you find more than 51,000 accessions. And this is actually a graph from the Eurisco catalog, how these 51,000 accessions distribute across the gene banks listed there. One of the largest collections comes indeed from the IPK in Germany. That was the Federal Exito Gene Bank as part of the institute. And alone here, we have over 8,400 accessions, or Muster here, we still have the German word. So that's a super large diversity. And you see here examples from the cold chamber in the IPK. When we had our project meeting, Roberto wanted to take them home, all of them. But how do we now manage to utilize this large diversity? And we thought, well, public involvement would be helpful. There are nice experiences with citizen science. And there was like a pilot study done with soybean in Germany that was called the 1000 Garden Experiment, where citizens and farmers could grow at home a way smaller subset of the soybean collection and phenotype. And this was running only in Germany, but this was the first citizen science experiment, I would say, for agronomy related topics. So based on this, we planned our increased citizen science experiment, which is now running all across Europe. And this has several aims. So the scientific aim is, of course, to characterize a large panel of plant genetic resource lines that comprise more than 1,100 lines, do that from the genetic point of view, which the project does. And then, of course, we want to gather phenotypic data all across the European environments using participatory science. This includes also testing a new decentralized conservation system that the citizens carry out. So we want that citizens continue multiplying their beans and also being able to exchange the bean accessions among each other. All this should also be used to create awareness on the topics of agrobiodiversity and of course on the benefits of a healthy diet, and to really encourage the public to consume and cultivate legumes. And all of this should later help mitigate the effects of the climate crisis by increasing agrobiodiversity and promoting a sustainable agriculture. The CSE in a nutshell, you see here on this graph. So everything is centered around an app. That's the Increase CSIA app. Here people can register and conduct the whole experiment regarding phenotyping for this large bean collection. So they receive a subset of this large collection to their homes, and then they should grow and utilize them, grow them in their gardens and utilize them also for tasting, and as said, conserves them in the future and exchange among each other. If we come to the CSE lines, so we have at the moment over 1,100 single seed descent lines, which were derived from two former projects. That's the Beanadap project and that's the Brezov project. And everybody receives, of course, only a subset. So that's 5 of these PGR lines plus one control line. And the one control line was carefully selected. It's an early flowering bush type variety that is a modern variety called Mecchiali and is from the Blumen group in Italy. So the whole collection has, of course, variation regarding the growth habits. So you have bush beans, but you also have climbing beans. All of them have passport data because the original accession, of course, comes from a gene bank. And we have focused on the EU, but the whole collection comes from more than 40 countries worldwide. So we also included, for example, American material. The collection is also a subset or a representative set of the main gene pools that we discovered. It's just the races that I showed you from the study. And all of our material, including the CSE lines, have DOIs and increased project codes assigned, so we can always trace back. And of course, they are fingerprinted. 28% are from the T-core, so they have whole genome shotgun data, while all the rest has GBS data as they are part of this R-core. And already here, I introduced the genetic structure that we described in the earlier study. Here you have a view into the app. So the app has several aims. So you have a news section that serves us for communication. You have the citizen science area where you can conduct all parts of your experiments. That includes also the SMTA. So all material was received from a gene bank via an SMTA, and therefore we also have to give it to the citizens with the SMTA and facility also that they use SMTA for further distribution. And as said, they have DOI and project codes. And only after the SMTA is accepted, seeds are sent via mail. So the first step when we assign bean varieties to a particular citizen is to accept the SMTA. And this happens via the easy SMTA in the app, and you can just accept it via a click. And when you've done that, you receive this set of beans. And this includes, I think I skipped that slide. I thought I had one more. This includes here 2 color checkers that are later used for phenotyping, the plant passport, and of course the 6, so 5 plus the control variety of the bean lines and a little information sheet. So this is what the citizens receive at home. Then here we have a view into the My CSE area, which is the phenotyping section. So for example, you can also first choose your skill level. So we have 3 different levels: basic, medium, and expert level, because we have really citizens that have never grown plants or beans before, and we also have experts. So depending on your skill level, you get a different number of traits that you should score, and they are organized here into this trait group. So we have information of sowing, including, of course, the sowing dates. Then you can give in information regarding plant emergence, plant growth, flowering related traits, and also flower morphology, pod ripening, then the harvesting information, including the harvest time, and then post-harvest assessment of pods and seeds. Here you see an example. This is now in the German version because I did it from my phone, of the flowering time. So you have here my 6 bean lines, and then I'm supposed to upload a picture about the flowering time and also insert the date of flowering. And you have tutorials that you can open for each trait and that are present in your language where you can read what you should do. This is an example of the use of this color code, where here a flower was phenotyped or here pods. And with this color card, we are then able also later to use the images that the citizens provided to go for image analysis via artificial intelligence mechanisms, and then to get out the traits automatically. And we already made progress here regarding the leaf shape and also now the seed morphology. Yeah, we couldn't run this experiment with these different tools. So we have the website that has a citizen science section with a lot of further information in the menu, where you can go through and really understand what you should do. There are also all the tutorials on the website, the information on the SMTA. And very important in Europe, that you address the citizens in their native languages. So we have all these languages displayed here. We use automatic translations, and then we have voluntary translation team in the consortium that is then going through the automatic translations and improving little mistakes that they do. We also have a central email account for the citizens that is connected with the app. So here people can ask us questions and we are answering, and also we can send out information to the citizens. What's very important is the recruitment of participants is run really locally, so in the languages that everybody in the consortium can address. So you get information material provided by our project management company, and then we do the dissemination in our language circle and in our network, of course, and we use the media, TV, radios, newspapers, Facebook, Instagram, social media, etc. And also a lot of garden-related associations and whatever is available, let's say. And then, of course, we are also asking questions to the citizens. So at the beginning of the round, we want to know something about their background, why they participate, etc. So I have some slides on results of that later. As said, the news is also a relevant part of the INCREASE website. This is only in English. We don't have the time to always translate everything into all the languages, otherwise a news post would take too long. But this is also shared in the INCREASE CSA app, and people can always get informed about the project itself. It's not only about the CSE, but of course a lot of news are from the citizen science experiment. A very important part, because it's not clear for most of the citizens, was the information on the standard material transfer agreement. What's the background of that? Most people have no idea that there's even a treaty and why they have to accept a legal contract if they want to use our material. And this, as said, is the reason why we have the FAO on board. Our app is integrated into their systems and communicates with their systems. So everything is run smoothly and automatically. And now with having the background information worked out together with FAO, it's also easier to convince the participants why they should go this step and what's behind that step. Here is the slide that I wanted to show before. So this is what the citizens get. So at the beginning of every year, the Italian team is preparing all these envelopes with the different seed bags. And this I already explained. So you see here just a video, what's in the bag. That's the information sheet, the 2 color cards. And then we have the seed bags, which are prepared in many weeks of work every year by the team in Ancona. can't display it faster. Yeah, and the plant passport is missing, but we have the plant passport as well. So this is just an impression slide, how much work that actually is. So if you have to prepare thousands of seed bags every year, then this is really also coordinated planning how to organize that. And it's a large team of the students in Ancona that do that every year. And then we use the regular mail all across Europe to distribute this. Yeah, coming to the participant numbers. So in total so far across the 5 rounds, we have attracted over 25,000 participants already. We started 2021 with little experience and already reached more than 3,400 participants. Here, the winner country was Italy, followed by Portugal, and then the rest was scattered all over Europe. Then, of course, you learn by the experience. And in the second year, we put more emphasis on having a more uniform distribution within Europe. And you see along the map that this was also reached. And then our record round was happening in 2023, where everybody knew how to do the dissemination and had established their networks. And to be very honest, that was a little bit too much. We were very happy and we were managing the round, but we were really at our capacity limit, because also you have to pack all those seeds bags and send them via mail. And this was taking then too long because we had too many seed bags to prepare. So we set us a limit of we cannot handle more than 5,000 per round. And in 2025, we reached that to the limit. So we had 5,000 new participants. But as said, we also want that people continue participating and growing their beans a second time, and also doing seed exchange among each other. So we already built up this process with the second round. And then we improved this process in the app and all the needed information. And we paid a lot of attention that for this big round, we motivate a lot of participants to continue. So we had also additionally to the 5,000 new, over 1,300 continuing participants. And also, since this round, we ask in the app when they register to the experiment, if they register on behalf of a school garden, because we always knew we have some schools on board and wanted to pay more attention to them. And that's how we got to know that in 2024, we had actually 282 schools on board. And if we now look into the still running round of 2025, we again had 283 schools on board from 10 different countries. We almost again reached the 5,000 of new participants, and we could also motivate 596 to continue with the experiment from this round. Here's just an example of our flyer when we disseminate the experiment. And here you see now across the 5 rounds a summary of the country participation for the countries that have more than 100 participants. Italy was always, of course, very strong, so has the strongest participant number with over 8,600 participants, followed by Germany with 6,000, then France with 2,700, Spain, Belgium, that is Poland, Portugal, Sweden, and so on. And of course, there are other countries that have also less than 100 participants. So it's, of course, differing the participation level among the countries, but I think we can say we have all of Europe on board. Then another point important for the project interaction with the citizens is that we also establish private Facebook groups, because in the app you cannot get in touch with each other due to data security. So we wanted that the citizens have a place to interact with each other and also with us more directly. So we created language-specific Facebook groups that you can voluntarily join. It's not needed. You will receive all information also without it, but it's offering contact with each other and with us. And it's really helping us to troubleshoot, because a lot of problems that are raised there can be answered by the more experienced expert citizens already. So it's also saving us time, and you can easier chat with each other. And also you can show off your pictures, etc. And we can use it to educate the citizens on agrobiodiversity related topics. So far, and that was the stand of May this year, we have 5,405 members in all these Facebook groups. So really a large number of the participants are using it, but not all. And I said you receive also all information without. And this is just an impression what's going on in the Facebook group. So people report their sowing, they're growing, they're harvesting, tasting, and so on, and just have fun also to show the experiment at home. Yeah, this is then a collage of impressions from the CSE, from the picture gallery of the app that we also have. And of course, it's always exciting for us to see how people are performing the experiment at home and how nice that looks. Then we also have, of course, the pictures that the citizens provide in the app that we use for phenotyping. Yeah, one important tool that the app also holds and has been improved over the years is the seed exchange. So that's allowing people to request seeds from others in the community, because we only give out fresh seeds once, and then people should use their harvested beans or request seeds from others in this community. And that's here an example picture from the app. So you can say send seeds or you can receive seeds. And we have a lot of detailed information on this process and how that works on the website. And this is here impressions from the app. So this is when you offer seeds, you can say from which bean lines you can offer seeds. You can say yes or no. And you can also say stop sharing if you don't want to participate anymore in the seed exchange. This is what the people see in the app. So you have here, yeah, the information. So you have kind of ID for each participant, and then which, how many varieties this one is offering. And if you click, you see the information on the bean lines and also the type of, is it a bush or a climbing bean that the citizen offers, and the detailed information on the bean lines we have on the website, because that's too large for the app. So again, we make sure here that people can't send seeds without that the SMTA is accepted. So in the end, if someone requests seeds, he has to accept the SMTA. And only when the SMTA is accepted, the app allows to display the email information for both participants, so they can get in touch by email and then conduct the seed exchange on their terms. So we don't pay for this. This is really voluntary, and you would need to deal then with who's paying the sending costs. Here's some numbers from the last round on the seed exchange. Whoops, that was too fast. Now I'm not seeing the headline. So in total, we had 409 seed requests that were accepted in the app. And naturally, they happen mostly within the country alone already for the sending costs and language barrier. But we also have seed exchange going on between countries, which is very nice to see. And in this round 4 example, 464 varieties were part of the seed exchange, so not the total set. We also checked if there's any preference regarding bush or climbing beans, but it's pretty equally, so there was no visible clear preference for any type of beans in that year that we saw. But it's really nice to see that so much seed exchanges are going on. And of course, people don't need to do seed exchange. They can also just grow their beans that they initially received from us again. I also told you we asked questions about the background. So this is some examples from the background that we have. So at least people answering the questionnaire, we had more female participation than male participation. We also have very different backgrounds of people participating in the project. And also regarding the age range, we have all age groups represented here, but of course, the strongest group are, let's say, the more experienced people in the middle age range. Also regarding background of their profession, it's also very different. So of course, we have people from agronomy, biology, natural sciences, but also a lot of people coming from very different backgrounds and maybe just have gardening as a hobby. This was also important for us to understand how much experience they have. So most people are medium experienced growing plants. Some have no idea of growing plants at all. and some are really expert, plant growers, let's say. That was for the Jimbang people important. So the term genetic resources is kind of, half of the people know this, half not. While the word Jimbang, funnily, was already known by 82%, so that's more prominent in the public knowledge. But on the other hand, that there's a treaty on plant genetic resources, this is basically unknown in the public. So if you participate in our project, you gain that knowledge and you gain also information about the background of this. Then we also ask about the legume preferences and ask, for example, how often do you consume beans? And that's half of the people eat beans at least once per month, 26 people once per week. And also we have some that don't eat it that often, so no more than 10 times per year, and a few people that eat it at least 3 times per week. There are bigger differences between the countries, especially between the more Mediterranean countries represented here by Italy and, for example, the more northern like Germany. So in the south, you eat beans way more often than in the north, I would say. But of course, this is, again, country specific. Yeah, if we now come to part of the scientific results gained from the data that the citizens provided in the app, we focused first on the flowering time. That's for us the most important trait because it really determines the adaptation capability of the lines across Europe, especially regarding the latitudes. And we have here our 5 genetic groups that we determined in this study that I presented to you. And then we divided the flowering times into these latitude regions all across Europe. And then you see, this is here flowering and days after sowing, that there's, of course, a trend to later flowering in the northern latitudes. This is still visible if you normalized for the flowering time of the control line. And here you see also that this A3 group, there's really a way stronger reaction to the northern latitude, so a stronger reaction to the photoperiod visible in the data. We then used this flowering time data for GWAS, so genome-wide association mapping. I don't know if you're familiar with this Manhattan plot, but basically it's a statistic that is combining the phenotypic data, here flowering time, with the genomic SNP information, and then you get significance level for each SNP. And if you cross a certain threshold, you have a significant association, and here should be a candidate gene related with flowering time. So we could use here 502 genotypes in this study, and we have more than 50,000 SNPs from the GBS sequencing, and we do find significant signals in this GWAS, and 7 SNPs are associated to flowering time. And this is in regions where genes are located that are known to be associated with flowering time. So it's really meaningful data that the citizens provide, and we also have a good data quality. In 2024, so last year, we were also receiving the grand prize of the EU for citizen science out of 288 applications, and we were very happy about it because, of course, it's very important for the visibility of this project. And here you see our group picture at the award ceremony in Linz in Austria last year. Yeah, also, of course, the project is able to reach or create a lot of outreach. This is just the German example. So we had local TV channels, MDRs, like the Middle German channel that was visiting the Jimbangs and explaining the citizen science experiment. And our biggest outreach probably is the Arte documentary, which is it's a French German channel that was having increase at its heart, its superfood beans, and was really also visiting a school class, for example, in the project, visiting IPK, visiting the French partner, going to Italy, and having different citizens that participate with us also featured. And the latest German outreach was this year, a cook show basically on Vox, where Sebastian Lege cooked the perfect chili and was searching beans for that chili, and then came to us, and it was a really nice show as well. Then I don't want to end the talk before mentioning that we organize all the data generated in the project in the increased portal that is not yet public, but will host all the data generated in the project. So not only the CSE data, but also all the other information in the 4 legume crops. And with that, I'm at the end of my presentation and just want to summarize. So we have generated, genotyped and characterized thousands of single seed descent lines for the 4 legume crops. We have standardized phenotyping, including also the traceability of material via the project codes and the DOIs. We also define core groups that have denser genotyping and phenotyping, so the T core and the H core. The data portal will enable access to all this information in the future that is accessible then by everybody. And we have this outstanding citizen science approach to characterize plant genetic resources, and really are going strong into this bean use and conservation by the citizens. And we created a lot of public awareness and education. And we are very happy to have so many school gardens also on board, because the education of the young generation on this pretty unknown topic is very important. And I will not leave the talk before mentioning that the round 6 registrations are open, and we are happy to have as many participants again as possible. And with that, I'm at the end of my talk, and you have to thank so many people, known and unknown, multipliers, of course, the whole consortium and the CSE core team. And thanks to all the citizens that participated so far, and for your attention, of course.
Thank you so much, Kerstin. It was a super presentation. I already got messages, people asking if they can participate still this year, and now we know. That's great. Yes. And also, if you can share your PowerPoint with us, we can also share with the presentation with everyone.
Yes, we will.
That was great. Thank you. And if you have any questions, you can hold it until the end, and we can continue talking about this. Now, Anna will join us.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Kerstin. It was such a fabulous topic you talked about. I have a couple of questions. I'm going to come back to them after my presentation. So thanks so much for now. All right. So guys, thank you so much for having me in the call as a presenter. Actually, I took part before. Let me see. What is this? But not as a presenter ever. So I'm going to tell you a little story about what we did in Western Serbia. My name is Anna, and I'm a founder of Motika, a non-profit agroecological initiative and project in Western Serbia. And this presentation is from our series Inspire and Communicate, because in our work in the past years, we wanted to show that everybody can learn to grow food. Basically, that's the bottom line, and that's the idea behind the project. It is very difficult for me to talk after the academic titled person that was just before me. So I have decided to tell you a personal story, actually, of how we learned to grow food, challenges that we faced and the results we obtained. And I'm going to talk a lot about the seed bank that we established. And in the second part of the presentation, I'm going to try to focus on how the seed saving practices help sustainability, because you wanted a little bit more body of the presentation. So I'm going to talk a little bit how it translates to the UN Global Initiatives for Agriculture. Okay. But before I start my story, I actually want to show you a couple of my personal photos that are made in the past 4 years. All of those photos are actually mine. They are made. I want you to get into the setting of my story, basically, by showing you these photos. And what I love about them is the diversity and the beauty of the final products, because you have no idea what it is to grow food until you do it yourself and you see the results, basically. I just want to draw attention from this slide onto the black turtle. That is a fabulously velvety satin variety of the beans. And despite the fact that they're being pretty hard, that's why they're called turtle, they're cooking beautifully well. All the seeds I'm going to show you most of the seeds I'm going to show you right now are heirloom seeds native to Western Balkans. And I'm talking today about the varieties that I found here in the region. Okay. So the next one is native to Herzegovina. That's a field pea. And you see that from the blooming process to the pods to the final product. And we started cultivating field peas at the very beginning of our Motika project, which was in the spring of 2022. And it grows absolutely wonderful in our land. Its characteristics are linked to high tolerance for drought. That's why it comes and it grows very well in Herzegovina, which is very dry for those of you who know the region. And this plant can grow and thrive in relatively hostile soils. We make the most delicious hummuses out of this legume. And when there is a good year in Herzegovina, Italians buy the whole harvest, right? And the harvest is always very, very limited. The next one is actually another heirloom slide. And this is the fabulously sulfurous yellow bean and a very native Vidovac. It's a small size bean with a black eye on the side of the seeds. Both of them really native to where we come from. This is not a native plant, but it goes very well in our soil, actually. Mostly in the Balkans, people use this plant as ornamental. The people here in Balkan don't eat the fruits of this plant. On the right-hand side is the only photo that is not mine, but because I don't have a really good photo of those seeds, I just borrowed that from Google. But it looks really beautiful in the gardens, etc., etc. I know that this is the people in Asia use this to eat, actually. All right, and this is an interesting story. These are not the heirloom seeds because when we start growing seeds, our friends started sending us the presents in the form of the seeds. They didn't understand that we try to cultivate only heirloom seeds. So they were sending us mainly from Italy and the Netherlands. And here are the two sorts of beans that we cultivated in 2024. Both are climbing high varieties. On the left-hand side, it's a baklan. It's a Turkish variety of the seed. The seed is as big as 2 centimeters, which is huge. And I could not, demonstrate it is better on the photos, but just to tell you that it's really, really big seed. And I would think that comes from the family of fava beans, but I'm not sure. And maybe somebody in this school knows that. I don't know. But and very interesting about these beans is that it is the most expensive seed I ever bought. That was not gifted to me, but I bought that on a farmer's market in Belgrade, and I paid 15 euros for a kilo of the seeds. And it was a couple of years back. And of course, it was meant for consumption only. It was not meant for me to multiply, but I manage and multiply the seeds. And now we have that in our seed bank. But let me tell you how we started this whole story, because it's a personal story. And, it takes some time. I go back to November 2021, when my husband and I visited a plot of land that we inherited from his family. It is situated on the slopes of Tara Mountain. And for those of you who might know the geography a little bit better and know the area, it is close to the Bosnian border, basically, in Western Serbia. We had been proud owners of 40 acres of land for more than 15 years, but we hardly ever visited it, okay? We had a farmer neighbor who took care of mowing the grass every year. The land is pinned on a rolling slope on about 700 meters above the sea level, and the growing season is really short. The summers are hot, but last hardly longer than September. We had Septembers when we had frost on the ground before the end of the month, which is absolutely, for beans, it's just like disaster. Initially, my husband and I, we went back and visit. Our visit was more actually of a homecoming than about agriculture that we knew absolutely nothing about. So we spent most of our adult lives living in and working in Amsterdam. We built our careers and traveled the world and didn't have any touch with agriculture, almost none. In my job as a communication manager, I talked to employees about change management a lot. And I even sold change management as a service to the clients. But actually, I never really experienced it so dramatically before coming home to my fatherland. Once in the land, I decided to kick off a project called Motika. I wanted to connect the local community, learn the ropes, pick up on their agricultural knowledge, and try to revitalize our land for the use of growing vegetables. I love being outdoors, and I used to grow plants on my tiny balcony in the center of Amsterdam, but never have dug a hole in the ground, or much less produced a tomato or anything like that. I didn't know anything about it. So you can imagine that coming to work the land, my views were pretty idealistic and my expectations were very naive. For example, I have always believed that if you work hard and put all your energy to a project, it cannot fail. Little did I know that each and every season on the land and in the open where we grow our vegetables is actually subject to mighty nature, of course, but I had to learn that simple fact as well. Also, I was actually guided by a noble notion that we were left with something that, although we knew nothing about, that we would like to improve on that and be a worthy successors, of course, so much so that we could leave something behind us as it was left to us. So when you start a greenfield idea, and this was literally a greenfield, you have the possibilities to go all sorts of directions. And some of them are right, the other wrong, whatever. I have already been digging in the world of sustainability while I was working for IBM. Within corporations, we had the form of corporate social responsibility that we had to provide. But I also was a specialist for beekeeping products. Previously, I had attended a 6-month course on how to test and detect the quality of the bee products. So once in the project of Motika, I knew I'll be working the land in a fair manner. So producing fair and good food, that was imperative to me. It was really, really important. Another dominant thought that I had was to write and document my experience, which is no wonder if you're doing communication, of course. I mean, why wouldn't you? And basically, I wanted to show others that it is possible to change your life, grow your own food, but also contribute to the society by letting people know about the successes, but also failures of such a change. So I kicked off a website and an Instagram page, and I talked openly about my village experience. In that period, around 21, 22, we have heard of number of similar agriculture initiatives in Serbia. Some wealthy people invested in agriculture, and we're selling really good quality products. So around January that year, 2022, I found out that there was an online course on how to cultivate domestic, local, native heirloom vegetables and cereals. So I wrote a letter to the leader of that course and training. Her name is Ivana Petrović. And she was only not running the training, but afterwards would provide participants with her own heirloom seeds. Ivana is, I have to tell you, she's a professor at the agriculture faculty in University of Belgrade. So that gave the credibility to her project and the training that she was provided to give. So her idea was to cover Serbia with smaller seed banks, share the seeds with local community, try to save some of the species, of course, that were frozen or refrigerated in her at home. So I understand that the audience here in this call know Ivana. I understand that she was talking to you about this particular project in the call with you in February of 2022. Well, mine is a follow-up story. So as Motika is one of the local banks that was established based on the knowledge and seeds provided by her from her mother's seed bank. She was very generous and shared some 35 different, mainly heirloom seed varieties with us. And in turn, our project Motika had shared her stash with 2 other neighboring homesteads, simply because it was too much for us. We could not grow 35 different vegetables and cereals. So among us, so those 3 homesteads that we are together in the village, we managed to multiply around 20 of those given species. Not all the plants at that first year. So in 2022, when this harvest was finished, we actually, out of the 35 given, we could multiply 20 species. Not all the plants are thriving well on our patch of land and on the land of our neighbors. That is due to a specific local specifics, but also due to the lack of knowledge. We simply didn't know how to grow some seeds. in that course, Ivana taught us how to preserve seeds, how to test germination afterwards, how to store it, and how to properly label it. And I have to tell you that that's a knowledge that you cannot find and pick up on the street nowadays, despite, you know, having all the intranet and internet tutorials. So we grew all kinds of vegetables and cereals, but we were most successful with legumes and beans. Cereals were doing fine, tomatoes were beautiful, and pumpkins too, but the beans were our absolute pride and joy. All heirloom bean varieties that we store nowadays are short ones. We have some other that are not native to the Western Balkans that are different, either bushy or climbing, but the ones that are heirloom seeds coming from Western Serbia and Western Balkan, they are actually short bushy ones. And they give plenty of pods and seeds, and they're absolutely fabulously delicious. So, of course, nothing goes without problems. When we started with our family garden in 2022, our main challenge was lack of knowledge. So we were naturally relying on our next door neighbors. So they gave us a hands-on crash course in the first growing season. They taught us how to work the land, how to sow, what a plant was ripe to harvest and when to harvest, how to collect seeds, etc., etc. In the winter months, we were attending online classes, bought books, search internet for all sorts of methods that we deemed suitable for our way of working. We were happy to experiment, and we were confident to introduce new and innovative ways of working on the land. Some of those are, for example, no-dig cultivation, some elements of no-dig cultivation, soil preservation in the form of crops rotation, and soil covers, etc., etc. Of course, we could experiment with no fear because that's not our bread and butter. Of course, we were just like starting to grow the second year. Experimenting has, however, greatly surprised our farmer neighbors. And firstly, they were puzzled and later a bit annoyed, I would say, when I told them not to mow our land more than once during the season. This is in order not to leave our soil barren in the winter months, of course. So the concept of sustainability, that's where we get into a notion of sustainability, is something that I never thought, that those people in the village in Western Serbia never thought about it before. And they would say all sorts of things to me in response to my green way and approach. They would say things like, what are you worried about? This land has always been here and it will always be here long after us. So those are some things that they would tell me, which is, it might be true. I don't know. I mean, we cannot predict the future, so they might be right as well. I don't know. Let me tell you a little bit more how they handle the land, what we learned in the first year from them. On one hand, they were living and working on the land, enabling conventional agriculture and farming with the use of pesticide and hybrid seeds. Although I was met with the neighbors as old as 70 years who had witnessed very different way of cultivation before, of course. They insisted that you can not have a proper harvest without using pesticides. So that was really, really surprising to me, and needless to say that we proved them wrong. That was on one hand. On the other hand, they lived quite sustainable, had their own little farm, growing food and tending the animals for their own purposes and use. They collected glass bottles and tin and plastic bags, etc., etc. And when I was thinking about them and the way that they use the nature and the environment, I guess that I understood that each of us practiced some form of environmental protection in a selective way, and maybe small way, and within our own understanding and limits. So that's how I actually found the peace at working with them. One other challenge that we faced, especially this summer, was lack of resources, mainly water. We were relying on supply that is coming from a water supply network dug in the village. But the scorching summer that we had second in a row showed us that the use of that water was not enough for everybody in the village, and the infrastructure was outdated and collapsing. So it was also a kind of lesson learned for us, of course. Results. What have we achieved? So during the 4 years that we worked the land, and we had really a lot of joys. We saw things grow and give birth, and for the city people, it is priceless. We never saw anything grow, and we never grew anything ourselves. So that's the first thing. I think our biggest achievement is actually that we founded a small seed bank with the varieties of legumes and vegetables that are suited for the climate that we are living in. So during the good summers, we were feeding half of our street with chard and courgettes and pumpkins and onions and all sorts of things. So from those seeds, we actually collected that small bank. We cultivated not only heirloom seed, but also some other that we could not prove the origin of. But that's due to the fact that we were given things, so we came across and we didn't want to keep them in the cupboards, and we just multiply those seeds as well. We shared those multiplied seeds with over 70 homesteads, mainly in Serbia. Some of the packages went to the neighboring countries like Montenegro, Macedonia, and Bosnia, where we actually was collecting our initial seeds as well. Some went to Italy, some to Netherlands, but mainly to the Balkan countries. So we were giving back what we actually took from them in the first place. Probably the second most important result is that we actually, in addition to our own learning experience, in March 2023, I actually organized an event with the local community in the municipality of Užice, which is a town that we rotate around actually. And with the support of the Užice Assembly House, universities and institutes, I hosted 120 participants in an event that was called Noah Ark, Preservation of Agriculture Heritage. And mainly it was one-day event, and we talked about the cultures that are suitable for the growth on higher plains and in less fertile soils that most of the villages have to deal with there in the neighborhood. So what are the takeaways? The takeaways that, I talked a lot about green, so I'm not going to go back to that. So everything that we've been doing, we try to do eco-friendly. We understood that that's absolutely imperative, not only because it's a modern word nowadays and it's a very expensive word, but because that's the way to go and build on the future. I want to talk about this second point, honor and honesty. We came to understand that cultivating and multiplying heirloom seeds requires special sort of dedication and is often not suitable for the hobby growers. It was also not suitable for people that are doing agriculture in our village. No matter how many times you have to tell them that they have to take care about interbreeding and cross-pollination, that was very difficult for them to grasp and to obey by those rules. So to preserve your genetical plant heritage, you need experts, institutions, universities, you need a state to stand behind the farmers. However, for growing food, you need just a lot of small homesteads and enthusiasts. So to multiply any sort of seeds, you don't need institutions and industry, just volunteers, basically. And people are very confused. They were really confused. I was confused in the first place when we talked about what is the organic, what is the homegrown, what is the heirloom, what is the hybrid, what are amateur varieties, how is the conservation going. So those are really all sorts of very difficult notions for the people over there, but I mean, for us as well. I'm not talking. And the last takeaway is Hans Indrut. It is experience that is priceless for us. So there is no greater gift in the world than to be gifted experience that we were provided with, and that you can give and gift experience further down the line. All right, so I have another couple of slides and I'm going to leave you with that. You guys are having experts, all sorts of experts here. So I decided I'm going to link my presentation to the story of sustainability that I talked about before. You already grasped what is the sustainability situation in Serbia in a rural area. It's not much better in the cities or in the industry. We have a long way to go to make it meaningful to all, actually. But let me just go back to how the United Nations defined the sustainability goals. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is adopted by all United Nations members in 2015, and it's basically a blueprint for peace and prosperity. At the heart of that agenda are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, either developed or developing. They basically recognize that ending poverty and other deprivation must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, spur economic growth, et cetera, while at the same time taking care of climate change. and working to protect our oceans and forests and lands and everything. So how does this actually translate to our practice of saving seeds? How is the saving seeds addressed within the UN 17 SDGs? So they're addressed in SDG 2, 12, 13, and 15. So SDG 2, zero hunger, they say that the seed saving preserves agricultural biodiversity, and farmer-bred varieties are often more resilient to local pests, diseases, drought, flooding, etc., more than commercial hybrid seeds. And it reduces farmers' dependency on purchasing new seeds every season, which lowers cost, of course, and increases food sovereignty. SDG 12, responsible consumption and production, it reduces, among other things, it just reduces the packaging waste, transport emission, a need for chemical inputs that is often linked to commercial seeds, basically. Climate action, locally adapted and farmer saved seeds usually perform better under changing climate conditions than the commercial seeds. Simple as that. And life on land, that's SDG 15. Seed saving maintains crop genetic diversity, which is essential for agroecology and ecosystem stability, basically. And FAO that Kerstin talked about estimated that we have already lost 75% of crop genetic diversity in the last century. So the community seed saving and seed banks are front line of defense against the further erosion. In support of those, I'm just going to finish in 2 minutes. I'm almost done. In support of those main, let me just see. Let me just see, page up, page down. Do you see this? No poverty? Okay, so in support of those main SDGs, there are 3 others that actually are linked to the seed saving. It's SDG 1, which is no poverty, because as we said, seed saving cuts a major expenses for the farmers. SDG 5, gender equality. In many cultures, including Serbia, women are the primary seed selectors and custodians, of course. And SDG 17, partnership for goals. So Motika is one of the multi-stakeholder partner, and we are just very proud to be partnering with farmers and other NGOs and gene banks and governments and universities, etc. So those are the supporting SDGs. The official recognition, the UN recognition of seed saving is also to be found in 3 other things. So the first one is the UN Decade of Family Farming that explicitly promotes farmer seed systems and seed saving. The second one is the UN Declaration on Rights of Peasants that includes Article 19 on the rights to seed, affirming farmers' right to save, use, exchange, and sell their own seeds. So that is defined in the Article 19 of that right. And going back to the SDG 2, specifically in the target 2.5, there is a call for maintaining the genetic diversity of seeds. And that is best preserved, they say, in the banks at the national, regional, international levels. So this whole story about the UN, in short, seed saving is not just compatible with the SDGs, it is one of the most powerful low-cost farmer-led practice available to achieve multiple goals at the same time, especially zero hunger, climate resilience, biodiversity conservation, and some other sustainable patterns that we talked about before in my story. I'm going to leave, I want to leave this presentation actually with this quote. I have no idea if we did a great job, but we acted within our limits and we loved the work on land. And in this picture, you can see just one example of how my car boot looked like on the way back from the farm one afternoon. And most of the food was shared among the neighbors as we produced more than we needed, basically. And you can get in touch with me through W, of course, always, but these are my contact information should you want to know more. I think I stayed within the limits of 20-25 minutes.
Yes, Anna, thank you so much.
Joy, thank you.
Great story you have. I think now we can open for questions. If you want to send in the chat, or if you want to open your mic, raise your hands. I know you have questions for each other, also the speakers. If you want to start as well, because sometimes people get shy to start, you can go ahead. Michaela. Raise her hand. Go ahead.
Yes, hello. I'm Michaela from Austria, from Aachen. And I want to refer to your comment that you said that it's difficult to teach or to draw farmers into seed saving, or even amateur gardeners. From what we've experienced when we are interacting with people, they're doing training on seed saving, etc. It's probably 1 out of 10 that will continue seed saving in a more ambitious way, also in a skilled way that has the dedication and the diligence, that is required for seed saving. So and also when we collected in villages, for examples, there were often specialized women gardeners or women farmers who were practicing seed saving, and they shared the seeds with others or their plants with others. So it was also in communities of a skill of specific people in the village.
So you actually recognize the situation that I just described. You can relate to that.
Yes. So I wanted to
I particularly actually emphasize that cultivating heirloom seeds, so the native seeds, is very difficult. And why is that? Because when you cultivate and multiply heirloom seeds, you want the genetics to stay the same. Of course, you don't want to have the interbreeding. So we just had a fabulous example of, we gave one of the neighbors, he had the whole plot of land with the heirloom type of corn. Okay, so he requested that, we gave it to him, and it was absolutely fabulous. He did a great job. He had a lot to harvest in the end. The crop was doing really well. But because he did not listen to us, that when you plant the corn on that particular spot, 1.7 kilometers around you should not have another corn planted, because if you do, unless the cross-pollination will take place, and that's what happened to him. So he got a good harvest. That was very tasty, what he produced in the end of the day. But basically, there was loss to our little bank seed bank, because we could not say that that's that variety that we gave it to him. Do you know what I mean? Because even being an amateur seed banker, as I am, I could see the difference, because the corn that was provided to him was totally yellow. We got the half yellow, half white seeds in the end. So there was a cross-pollination that took place. And, so that it's just impossible for them. I mean, for us as well. I mean,
it's really difficult for wind pollinating, or also for pumpkins. Also, if you're growing it in a rural environment with all the crops of other species of this crop, they are grown in the whole area. No, then it's really difficult to.
The thing with beans is a little bit easier, because the beans they cross-pollinate a little less, so that was the less problem. But because we are talking beans mainly here, but I just wanted to give you an idea how difficult it is to actually multiply the heirloom seeds.
Kerstin, you would like to add to that?
Yeah, I can only agree to that. So, of course, common bean is way easier, because it's mostly self-pollinating, and you don't need so much distance to each other. I'm not sure if I can agree for the self-pollinating crops that with some guidance, I think people are able to save the seeds, and many hobby gardeners do that anyway, right? They don't always buy new seeds, so they have already kind of skills how to also label seeds. Sometimes it's really also, I harvested, but I didn't label the bag. It's sometimes the basics which are missing. And then, of course, we try to support if one variety, I know which varieties they had, and if one variety is very different looking, then I can say, okay, this must be this one. that you got, but yeah, it's very important to give very detailed instructions on every level that they can do it right. And you will have failures as well. That's for sure. So I admire your work. I'm wondering if you, it wasn't clear for me if you collaborate with seed banks also, that you donate your seeds there, that they are maintained in a centralized way, at least to have one copy of the varieties conserved by, let's say, a professional gene bank maybe?
Yes, well, I don't think that what I cultivated or actually stored in my little bank is nothing. I mean, I don't want to say nothing special. It is certainly special for us, but I think that the seeds that we have, they were already provided by a mother seed bank, and when I asked them if they want to have it back, they said no, they don't, and. Because I think it's only fair to give a little bit back, of course. So I decided not to. I think they would go through a process of verifying that interbreeding and the cross-pollination didn't take place. I think that they don't really trust us hobbyists. I think that's the bottom line. But to us it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. I'm just happy that if like for that regional little seed bank that I made, that if Užice town is about 80,000 people, if everybody would decide to go and do a vegetable plot and want to grow vegetables and cereals, I would probably be able to provide maybe for a half of population seeds. That's what matters to me. That's what I want to say. And it's heirloom, not, it doesn't matter. But I think you're right. Each of us, or the seed bank, wants to have a duplicate somewhere else. So I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, but if you have it from gene banks, then there is already a copy there. So it's now about multiplying it in the community. And I think
exactly
you observed that women are kind of, I was not sure if it, for us, it's a result of that women are more willingly to answer the questionnaire. But I mean, at least from the German participant list, I can also recognize more female names. That's difficult for me in the other languages, right? Than male names. So I think there's a higher interest kind of in gardening, maybe per se, among women. And also if you really mention you have old varieties, you run through open doors everywhere. So people are really interested. It started with the
very
tomato,
interested,
I think, because the tomato lost basically the taste, right? And then people were interested in having seeds from the old varieties that are tasty. So since then, old varieties are somehow connected in the public knowledge with a higher taste and higher quality. It's not always right? But that's the impression that the public has. And I have a lot of female friends that participate and do the seed exchange. So it's less men probably. No,
yeah.
Although of course we have very passionate male gardeners as well. So I don't know if that's your observation in general, that there's more.
It is absolutely, because I have, on my social media, where I write my stories and blogs, and I have like discussions with people, etc., etc. Mainly people who are following me are women. So they have interest, and they always, so those 70 plus addresses that we shared our seeds from, they are mainly the seeds went, the little bags, they went to the female farmers and hobbyists, etc., etc. You're totally right. That's recognizable.
We got a question in the chat, and someone raised their hands as well. The first question is, were there any unexpected findings from the common bean accessions that citizens grew and characterized? For Kerstin.
Yeah, if you zoom into details, for sure you also find unexpected findings. If this is then always a correct result that needs to be found out, then line by line or accession by accession. So if you have a high number of data points for each accession, you can also filter out the outliers, right? So something probably also wasn't characterized correctly. But what we always see is that this categorization into bush and climbing beans, we know as biologists, this is not black and white, right? So we also have some intermediate forms, and then sometimes people say, oh, you were saying this is a bush varieties, mine starts to climb, what should I do? The information is wrong. And then you start to debate and look deeper into this and see that, yeah, indeed, you have some times under certain environmental conditions also a climbing feature. I even had that myself, so I'm participating also since a few years with the control variety. So in one of the years it made like 1 meter, how you say, Ranke in German. Yeah, so, but of course they don't climb 3 meters high, those intermediate times. But these are often debates. And sometimes you have, of course, probably still some mixtures. Now, and what's also sometimes challenging, if within the same plant, even the control variety, they have their certain seed features, but you might have one color more dominating on one seed than the other. So it's like a pattern, and sometimes this pattern also differs. And then to debate with the citizens, is that now a mixture or is that natural variation in that accession? So that's sometimes not so easy to say when something is really mixed up and when something is just a normal variation in that accession.
Thank you.
So did I understand very well that you were sending the samples of the beans to a particular region, having in mind where the seeds go to? Like if it goes to the Northern Europe, you would send different varieties than you would send to Italy, or you just had four things that you were sending?
Yeah, no. We exactly want to have a distribution of all the 1,100 lines all across Europe in a basically uniform way. So we want to have it represented, all of the lines in each of the parts of Europe, to exactly study the adaptation of this line. So of course you will have material that fails in the north or flowers very late or then doesn't get mature anymore. But this is exactly what we want to find out. So we are not conducting the experiment in this way that you already know those accessions would grow well in the southern part or well in the northern part. This is what we want to find out. So we distribute them all across Europe, and therefore also we can study flowering time across all the genetic groups regarding to the latitude or basically photoperiod, for example. Yeah.
So when you say you have 1,200 lines, what does it mean? You have 1,200 different varieties that you send?
Yeah, I mean, it's gene bank material, so the correct term is accession. So those are land races, are old varieties, sometimes also breeding material donated. But let's say for easiness of language, we say old varieties. But they all came from a gene bank, from different gene banks, actually, mostly from IPK, but also from USDA or CIAT, for example, in Colombia. Yeah, and not everything is well adapted to all of European conditions. This we knew before, but we want to study it genetically and phenotypically with this data set, and we are on the way to do that. So it's a large data set under exploration also.
Thank you.
So what we, for example, also don't know, that gene banks don't hold this information, is when they went on collection trips and sampled the material all across the world, right? Then the curators often don't collect the information, what was the original use. So for what was the bean accession in this example here used for? Was it used as green beans or was it used as dry beans, and for which dishes this variety was good? And this is of course what the people would like to know, but we can't answer that. So we have now also the possibility in the app to tell us, you tried these varieties, were they good for this purpose or not? And we hope to find out more in this way about the use.
Thank you. Tulay had raised her hand. I don't know if she still wants to ask a question.
Yes, hello, good evening, everyone. This is Tulay from Istanbul. I'm a member of the Slow Food community as well. So I'm working with the Slow Beans thematic network leader. First of all, I just catch the presentation of Anna and missed the others. Hope you can share it with us. I will be very happy because there are a lot of interesting things that I've heard. My question to Anna is, we are also crazy about the usage of pesticide in our some of farms as well. I would like to ask you, what is that any possibility that you evaluated how much percentage of usage of pesticides since you started your garden Was it more in the beginning, or is it less now, or do you think it's opposite?
So from the very beginning, we inherited land that was not worked on the land for 40 years before us. So to me, that was absolutely incredible. So we decided from the very beginning not to use anything that is GMO and pesticide related. So on our plot of land, that piece is 40 acres, approximately 40 acres. We have not grown any food with pesticide. But our next door neighbors who taught us actually how to work the land, et cetera, they were using it. And so we had to kind of tell them that we don't want to use that we're going to use some, like the natural ways and the organic products that could help us grow the food. So in my case, it was zero from the beginning until the very last moment this October. We did not use any of that. But if you're asking me what is the percentage in the village, if that's your question yeah, my knowledge comes from 2 neighboring villages, and I don't know everybody, of course, but it's a very high percentage. It's very high. They just go and buy those seeds and the chemical products in the local veterinary and all the other shops. There are botanical shops that are selling those pharmacies that are specially designated for the growth of. And I told my next door neighbors that I don't understand why they do it, because they grow food for themselves. Because you have to understand that we are in a very hilly area. So the plot of lands are usually small. We're not talking hectares, we're talking small plots of land. So if you have a 40 acres, that is considered pretty big, all right? But most of them, they don't sow and they don't harvest from those big plots. They just they have gardens basically. So I don't understand why somebody would use pesticide for their garden growing. I don't understand that. So I don't have percentage.
If you don't use and your neighbors use, you cannot protect your garden at the end as well.
I totally understand. But that's why when they asked me to go and certify for organic, I said no.
No, I just wanted to ask, they don't role model you. I mean, they don't learn anything from you and they still go on using it.
I don't want to say that. I just say that we had some little clashes in between us. But the pesticides were not the first line of crash that we had. I just tried to tell them that mowing the grass every 15 to 20 days is absolutely, disaster for the soil. So that was our first misunderstanding. And from then on, we just went separate ways. The first year they were crucial to us because they show us the basics of growing food.
Hope they will change their minds. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Michaela?
I have a question to Kerstin about the methodology. How many replicates per line did you distribute? And how was the response rate, so the return rate of data that you got?
Those are very good questions, of course. So the replicates per line, of course, depends on the number of people registering. So what we have is that we have a randomization unit of 200 locations, aka participants, and then have altogether 1,000 lines. And this we then distribute across the growing regions of Europe. So depending on, let's say, the number of registered people, you have 5-6 replicates probably per year. Now, and then you, of course, accumulate data over the years. And the response rate is different because also the traits are characterized into basic, medium, and expert traits. So the basic traits like flowering time are supposed to be done by everybody. But of course, everything is voluntary and you deal with a lot of missing data. That's for sure. So I think for flowering time it's still fine. So it's like 30-40%, I would say. But of course, until the end, so you always lose more data points until the end. So for harvest time and all the seed traits, it's already less. However, as our aim is to also use it for the genetic studies and the genetic adaptation, we still have enough data points for the genetic studies, because then you compare the alleles, right? The two alleles per person with each other. Yeah, but that's why we do so many rounds. So the more rounds, of course, the better data set you have. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I think you're muted.
Sorry. We have time for one last question. Or if there's anything you, Kerstin or Anna, want to share that you felt like you didn't have the opportunity to share in your presentation.
I probably just want to highlight how important teamwork is. So all this project wouldn't work without that everybody contributes and knows what he's responsible for, and how important the voluntary association support is. So we had support from school garden associations, from a lot of plant breeding associated associations, from the news, from many garden enthusiasts that then put us on their website and social media channels, etc. So I think this topic is really interesting all across Europe, and so I would be happy if we could network also after this talk.
Well, if you can share maybe the link for the Increase project with us, and any kind of
Sure.
contact, and the presentation, both of you, also Anna. We have a monthly newsletter that I usually send in the middle of the month, and then I can send to all the Global Bean partners all this information, and we can keep in touch and continue to network.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. We will do.
Great, thank you.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here today with you. So thank you.
Yes, also many thanks from my side, and it was very interesting, and invite us anytime again.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was great having you. Thank you for being here with us. So I think we can conclude.
Yes.
And I'll send the presentation in our newsletter. If you're not part of our newsletter, just get into globalbean.eu, and we have a newsletter link. You can subscribe. Okay.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank
Everyone,
you.
nice
for
Bye-bye.
organizing.
Everyone, bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks.